Hey everyone, welcome to the Sharon the Red Baron show. I am Sharon with my special guest, Miss Tiffany. I wanted to go over real quick why I started this channel. What I'm finding is so many people, we are literally in the Great Awakening, where people are awakening spiritually, politically, just signs, synchronicities, crazy things are happening, whatever it is, it's happening. And I'm intrigued by everyone's story because I think everyone's story matters. And it might just be one story that resonates so much to you that you may want to reach out to this person because I feel like the people I'm interviewing are very open and they're here to help. So welcome, Miss Tiffany. Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you jumping on and sharing your experience about leaving the Mormon Church. But before I get going, can I ask you, are you a believer in signs?
Oh, absolutely.
I love it. I love it. It's like magical once you really awaken, huh? Is there something that you could share real quick with us that you just like your aha, like, wow, I can't make this stuff up? Like, do you have any story you want to share?
Oh, that one's a deep one. I mean, there's many. My mom was a psychic medium that could channel,
Ah,
passed away at 46, and my husband and
oh,
I were gambling at a casino when we would always bet on our birthdays. And just as clear as your voice and mine, I heard her in my ear say, "Happy birthday, Tiffany. It's going to hit on your birthday." And it did. And I was standing there in shock.
I
Um,
love it because that normally does not happen. You
no,
usually have to fight off the little old ladies at the machines and stuff.
Yeah, no, it was fantastic, and I took for granted some of the things that I was surrounded with in spirituality, but signs, absolutely. I see them, I hear them, learned how to recognize them.
Yes, I think that's a big part of it because I think in the beginning, when people start thinking about these things, they're like, no, that's just a coincidence. I don't know. It's just like in the movies, where they're like, that didn't just happen. Or, yeah, they're going to find out that their entertainment and music and everything is part of the big picture to explain things. But, so let me ask you, when was your big aha moment in questioning the Mormon Church?
For me, it was since I was little, but as I mentioned, my mom was a psychic medium that happened later on in life. And I, you weren't allowed to ask questions. You didn't feel valid as a female. You were never going to hold certain positions. So
Ooh.
for me, it was obvious. But other people, I admired their, I hate to call it blind faith, but that they had such a deep faith that I didn't have. Mine was always questioning why, what, and they don't like to answer those questions.
Mm-hmm. And no one was really giving you any answers that resonated. Is that?
No, and I was lucky that at least my mother was very open and spiritual and would answer those questions.
So was your mom also a part of the Mormon Church as well? Because I know that there are
Oh,
some. Okay, okay. So was that something that they frowned upon? That she was a psychic medium, or did they care? Or
yeah, oh yeah, they cared. So my family on my father's side and my mother's side, as far back as you can go in Mormonism, were Mormons. And
wow. Okay.
mom didn't look to become a psychic medium. She went through a lot of surgeries, had a lot of issues, and I guess she took a nap, woke up, and her sister was sitting in front of her with a shocked face saying, "Our brother that committed suicide just spoke through you." So then my mom started buying
Wow. That
books.
reminds me of the Jim Caviezel, the Angel Studios movie that just came out over the summer about awakenings. I mean, they talk about this stuff when, surgeries, accidents,
Yep,
close to
yep.
death experiences. Was that what it was called? They did it, they did such a great job. So wow.
And I was in elementary school when this happened.
Hmm.
And my mom was Mormon at that point, but my family folded away from her, didn't care for her gift at all, felt that it was on the side of the devil, for lack of the better
Hmm.
terms. The Mormon church itself disfellowshipped her because she had a live in boyfriend at the time.
Hmm.
And so it was hard.
Your mom sounds like she was a rebel. I love it. In a
I,
good way, is what I mean.
I applaud her because she paved the path for me.
Yeah.
So now I do spiritual work and past life regression that is called QHHT, based from Dolores Cannon. And I
I
think,
find her work fascinating.
yeah,
It resonates the last few years. You asked me 15 years ago, and I would have been like, I don't know about
man,
that. But once you start asking the right questions and start going down the rabbit hole, you kind of figure it brings you to a place like I've been lied to about almost everything in my entire life. What's up with that?
yeah,
Right.
and that's what you realize doing it. And once I started doing past life regressions, I didn't expect a big influx of people that stepped away from the church that wanted to find out what else is there.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew for them to start with me, it's like that's a major change. They're really diving into a pool head first. They're not taking it lightly. And I'm speaking about bishops that have walked away, generational. It
Mm.
is interesting to see their feelings and hear what happened to them, how their families pulled away from them, their social, their entire identity.
That is just the common denominator right there. I mean, and I was brought up Catholic, we went every weekend, CCD and all that. And I remember asking questions even then, there were people I knew in high school or so forth, they were pregnant and I'm like, oh my gosh, but isn't that bad? Are they going to go to hell? Those were the questions I was already asking when I was young. And I find that what you're saying, it's just people have no idea what's coming. But so when was your time that your real true aha moment, like I got to get out of here, like what's going on?
Actually, it was at a point, this is interesting, because a lot of us will pull away and they call us Jack Mormons, and then you jump right back into it at another
Oh, so a
point.
lot of people take a break and then they go back because they
Yeah,
just
they're
okay, wow, I didn't know
like to
that.
do more, do other things. And so there's different feelings towards it. But for me, it was when my mom got divorced
Mm-hmm.
and she needed help from the church. She'd paid tithing for years and years, and she just needed some food. And they said, well, we're not going to help you because you have a live-in boyfriend right now. I'm sorry. And we were starving. So we knew there was a
Oh
problem. And
my
my
gosh, Tiffany, I
goodness,
am so
yeah,
sorry. That is just not okay.
it's not. And I tried not to live with a chip on my shoulder and take and lump
Yeah.
in all into that. I realized that was that individual making that decision. There are very, very kind Mormons in the church as well too. But
Oh, I
that was
believe that. I definitely believe that as well. Yeah. Any religion, right? Yeah.
right. So that's what pulled me away from it. It just, in my opinion, if you're teaching how to be Christ-like, that was the least Christ-like thing to do in that moment.
I think that's very valid. I mean, my gosh.
You
So you got help. That's good. Okay. Okay. Not
Yeah.
through them, but through yeah.
No, but I've been blessed and baptized. My mom the same. I haven't removed my name from the records. It doesn't feel necessary. But it's such a different thing for me. Like my mother was viewed as such a terrible person for her gift that helped countless. And for me, they just say, oh, that's just Tiffany. So she's already paved a path where they're so much kinder to me for the things that I do that were similar to her, which is
Oh,
unfortunate.
yeah.
And I'm grateful.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Was there anything else that really stood out to you? If you could dive a little bit deeper, I mean, and if you're not comfortable with this, I totally understand, but I've heard a lot of things, and people outside of the church have heard things about, you know, sexual predators and so forth. Have you ever run into anything like that? Or do you know of people that,
Yep,
because to
absolutely.
me, that is just like a,
Well, I think it happens in all aspects of, I don't want to say religion or schooling, but I think it's an easier access per se to people that follow, that don't
in a
question.
place of power, a place of
Yeah.
power.
And they abuse that. But I have a really good friend that her dad was a bishop and abused that power on her and destroyed her whole life. My mother had someone in our family that did the same, and she tried to speak about it, and they said, don't talk about it. We don't talk about those things. You deal with it.
That is,
And
I can't imagine as even, especially a child growing up, that bad things could be happening to them. And you just, to keep that inside, I mean,
right.
I don't know how they're still around, and if they
Yeah.
are, I hope they really look within themselves that they're here to help change the world and coming out and speaking truth. And wow, I'm very
Yes.
sorry for your friend.
Yeah. Countless stories though. And it's unfortunate to hear that. It breaks my heart whenever I hear that from someone else. Myself, um, I I feel blessed that I didn't have to get entrenched so deep in it. But I had friends that if they didn't go to church every Sunday, they would get grounded. It's like my family was more open. My dad was a smoker and a drinker. My mom, like I said, being a hairdresser as well as very spiritual. They were kind of easier on it
I bet you
than.
that was great for your mom. She got to be able to talk to people,
Mhm.
and,
It was perfect
well,
for her. She had her social outlet. My mom always had wild colored hair. She was just really
that's awesome.
bright light.
Yeah. And a lot, it's interesting you say that because I truly find that people that do shine that light, people think that it rubs off as being fake and they don't understand it. And it breaks my heart that they don't understand it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no,
And the
absolutely.
naysayers
It,
like, oh,
it's a deficit within themselves. I don't think
exactly.
it has
Yeah.
to do with the other person. It's like what
Yeah.
someone thinks about you is their opinion, and what you think about you is your opinion. Just let it go.
And isn't it that, don't you think that's the way it should be? And we can be open to being open and everyone makes their own choice. It's a matter of just being heard and allowing it to flow wherever it needs to go. Yeah. Wow. Um, so can I ask you, do you have a lot of people left from the church that are still your friends, family,
Mhm.
supportive?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. My husband's family is, but they started out of state and were Mormon and very honest, very kind. Even when my husband and I were together, I was pregnant before we were married, and my mother-in-law introduced me as the fiance, not as being married, and she could have, but it was refreshing to see that honesty and that kindness and most of her kids are not, but she loves them all equally. So
Mhm.
that was refreshing. And I live in an area in Utah where the Mormons are kind. I'm happy to be around them. And a lot of them, not a lot, but I have a few that come to my meditation group. I've had a,
Oh, wow. Now, can I ask you, is that looked down upon or not within the
it's a,
church?
from what I understand, they're opening more to that. Now, there's some that are very traditional, very staunch that they would not be a fan, but
Mhm.
I can definitely see an opening and an influx of more of them coming into, because I've been teaching meditation 10 years.
Wow.
And
Meditation is just
most
amazing.
are spiritual. I get a few that are like had some that were Baptists, a few that are practicing Mormons, but
Mhm.
it's rare. It's not the common thing at all. And I've had a few that are practicing Mormons coming in to get past life regressions, which I know that's definitely not.
Oh, yeah. Well, I've been going down the rabbit hole for years now on religion and everything that I find. I mean, I kind of feel like I'm a broken record when everyone sees these videos, but there's a gentleman out there, Jonathan Kahn. He's one of the top 5 biblical scholars in the world, and he openly admits, I remember typing in when was Jesus born, and boom, it's not December 25th, and a lot of people that won't resonate with them. They won't understand. But my point is he had mentioned that the Vatican has validated and confirmed that they have changed the Bible over 300 times. And I
Absolutely.
think that the question is people need to ask why they've done that.
Precisely.
Why
Why?
would you even want to? I mean, I don't know about you, but when I think about history, true history, why would you want to alter it? Wouldn't you want the people to know? You
Yeah.
know?
Why would you alter the word of God? Wouldn't it be perfect in the first version, or was it the word of man?
Exactly. Like a corporate church of some sort. I'll never
Absolutely.
forget. I say this a lot as well. I remember seeing a clip with Jim Caviezel, um, there's a lot behind Angel Studios that I don't think people understand quite yet, but they will. I think that they're just basically sharing you truth. And some people may look at some of their movies, not the chosen one in the series and so forth, but their other movies as more of like a sci-fi, but they're actually telling you truth and it's going to unfold the way it's supposed to. But he had mentioned one time that um, Jesus frowned upon anyone making money off of his name. And I think that speaks volumes to people. I mean, I think that people can create church right within themselves and in smaller communities. And you don't even need structures. You could meet at each other's houses. You can meet out in nature. You don't need that, is what I
Yeah.
have come to. But how do
Jesus
you
didn't.
feel about all that?
Oh, I agree 100%. I think what my favorite was, my mom studied a bunch of religions. And you can tell she really set up my foundation for this. And one of the things that she came back with, she's like, Christ wasn't Christian, Muhammad wasn't Muslim, and Buddha wasn't Buddhist. And Christ didn't have a temple that he worked from. You just have people that are capitalizing on this. He pounded the pavement, he was with the sick. He was also imperfect. He had a temper. It's like there's all these things that people forget. But my favorite adage was, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. You teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. And that's where I think society gets crippled is they're not learning how to fish. They're depending on other people to tell them how to fish, whether it's at
Yeah,
work or it's in church or school. They're not listening to their intuition and trusting themselves,
I
which
agree.
really dampers their potential and what their life should be. You shouldn't be listening to another, you should listen to yourself.
I agree. I mean, that's the message that we always hear that we should listen within, but people, I don't find that it's changing now in, people such as yourself and those that are awakening, but the people that are still in it, I don't think that they understand that concept yet. They're just like, that's just the way it is. That's the way
They
things
don't
are. It's just like the,
are meditating with us. I love explaining to them prayer is speaking to God, meditation is listening. We
I
don't do
agree.
listening, we do a lot of speaking.
And we allow the chatter in our head to just numb us down like, oh, never mind. I'm with you, girlfriend, because I found meditation years ago and I am naturally a very, very high strung person. And I didn't think I was going to be able to do it. And when I got in that mode, I was like, where has this been my whole life? Like, I'm so much calmer. I can make better choices. I don't have all this. I got to do this. I mean, our brains, as soon as we pop up when that obnoxious alarm goes off every morning, the thoughts just keep going. I mean, I remember I was going to be opening my own meditation practice back east, and that's when a lot of shadow banning and things like that happen. And I'm like, it's going to happen at the right time. And I'm not looking forward to doing that at all anymore. But one thing that popped in my head that I've shared before is I've mentioned to people, imagine, and this, I don't know if it's out there, I don't think it is, but this is what my downloads was when I wake up in the morning, I think of every thought as a popcorn kernel. And before you know it, within 5 minutes, all those popcorn kernels have popped and they have nowhere to go. They have nowhere to release until you find things such as meditation and a sincere prayer without the church, like speaking within. And after that, I mean, I was so much more calm. I was so much more relaxed. I could make better choices and actually like look at both. I mean, I think it's a beautiful thing that you're doing because people are going to be needing that more and more. And there's a reason why you see it in all your meditation and spiritually. I mean, Jesus meditated all the time. Why? I mean, I felt like there was a time where people always thought that meditation and things like that were woohoo, and they're not because it's all talked about within the Bible. It's all
It is.
talked about in the Bible where people have literally been listening and they're like, oh, I'm supposed to be here. The same thing's happening to people like you and I, but they didn't want people to understand that you had that power and to listen within.
Yeah. And all people have that power.
They do. And I think meditation is a great gateway to it. So for sure. So what else? How can I say this? Do you see more and more people leaving the church?
I do.
Yeah, yeah,
I, but also, I'm in the nucleus of it. Utah's where we have the most, and they, like any religion, they require growth to keep the income coming in that they desire. So I also see them crank down on certain things, people to avoid, situations to avoid, so it keeps them more isolated from anything that could be eye-opening as
yeah,
well.
yeah. I agree. I remember my first wake up call when I moved from New Hampshire out here. I mean, we're diehard people out there. I'm not gonna lie. It's so many people are like, like they'll tell you exactly. I'm sure you've heard that about New Englanders. I'd like to think that I'm a little more laid back, but what I do know is when I moved out here, and I had never moved out of state, that I can honestly say that I moved out here for a reason. I just didn't realize it at the time, on all kinds of levels. But um, I remember one day seeing people walking to people's doors, and I remember asking Glenn's dad about it. He goes, "Oh yeah, that's the Mormons. They end up collecting your 10%." I'm like, "Wow, that one." My business mind goes off. I'm like, "That is a really good system." Re- Not really, but you know what I'm trying to say,
Yeah.
because that
And that's,
really is, when you think about it, that is a business,
yeah,
and
minimum.
then I just got thinking, and he says, "Yeah, they give 10%." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, when we were in Catholic church, we donated, my parents donated whatever they thought was fit. And I thought, my gosh, is
Uh,
there a way you can get that money back? Well, especially
no,
there's so many people suffering right now, I mean, inflation and all these factors. I mean, I just like to think that way. It makes the wheels spin. But that was the first thing I noticed. And also, a lot of people would say to me, "Oh, you can't wear that. You can't buy alcohol at the grocery store. You can't." And I'm like, "What's up with all these rules?" Because just because I'm not Mormon doesn't mean that I shouldn't be able to experience these things that I would like. I had, honestly, I'm going to be honest, I had a real big problem with that. I'm like, I'm not
absolutely.
letting anyone tell me what I should and should not be doing. And
So if you move into the state of Utah, you're going to get indoctrinated into Mormonism
oh,
by
I've had so many people
by
that have tried to. I mean, I wear this cross. This cross actually means a lot to me. It's Glenn's great great aunt. She's the one that drew all the mining maps in Utah, and we're going to be releasing those soon in the near. There's going to be a lot of interesting information on that. But every I remember a couple times where women came right up to me and like, "Oh, what division?" And I'm like, "No, I kind of do my own thing. That's why I wear this." I mean, I was nice to them, but I just found it to be very, I think it's nice when people do welcome you to a church or so forth, but at the same time, I was really turned off as well. I don't
yeah.
know how to explain it.
No, I
Yeah.
get it. And it depends on what community you are in Utah. Some are pushier. Where I'm at in Ogden, they're not. They embrace you. They don't even ask if you go to church, what ward you're in, nothing
That's
about it.
nice.
It's
That's
amazing,
nice.
a breath of fresh air. We talk about hobbies and interests and books we've read. It doesn't lead back to the church like it does in other areas that I've lived. So
That
it's
is that
thing.
is nice. That's nice. Um, so do you find that a lot more of the support groups, um, can you explain a little bit about, are you part of a support group?
No, I've inadvertently become one with my meditation.
That's what I'm trying to lead into here, girlfriend.
That wasn't our intention, but we ended up becoming a safe space for people that have left churches, marriages, that have trauma. They don't have friendships, people that are going through AA, military. I mean, it ended up becoming a hub. And we don't charge for it because we looked at it as our way to give back. I wanted to welcome people in so that money wasn't a hurdle to stop them from getting what they need. And it's so much different to meditate in group than it is on your own.
I
All
agree. I agree.
our
And
next
plus,
goal is
it's
online.
scientifically proven that when people meditate, things happen in the
Oh,
surrounding area. When I heard that, and I went down the rabbit hole, I'm like, holy moly,
yeah,
this is just so, that's what they mean
yeah,
by the energy is contagious. When you're around like-minded people, there's something that lifts instead of being stagnant and just, you can't speak, you can't talk, you can't voice your opinion, you can't do, like, there's a big shift in that.
right. And we want people to be who they are, how they are. Our doors are open to everyone,
What?
whether you're,
I think that's so beautiful because that's I feel like you saying that that's a judgment-free zone for someone. And I feel like a lot of people that are learning about meditation and kind of being more spiritual and digging within, that it's really scary for them and they don't want to. This is just what I'm gathering from a lot of these interviews I've been doing from for people leaving the Mormon Church, but they feel like an outsider. And I think a lot of them are scared to be converted to spirituality when really spirituality is within you. No one that does meditation and so forth is pressuring you. They're accepting you and they're listening to you. And they're simply sharing you tools of what has helped them to really find themselves for once and for all. And I just think that's a beautiful thing. I really do. So,
too. And I think Eastern philosophy really has a better handle on spirituality and a higher power because they talk about we are all a piece of God. It's all within us. So you're not saying you're greater than, more than, less than. We're all equal.
oh,
And
that's what's,
including
yeah.
Christ had a piece within him. And when you recognize that God is energy and you're a piece of that energy, it's so freeing to know that you came here to be creative, to experience, to live to your fullest, to learn from the contrast, to love, to cry. It's like all of these things that are such a deep experience, but you don't really get to leverage it until you understand that small piece of the I am.
I agree with you because I remember many years ago I had to grapple with that because even though we've heard it, to understand that it's way more than what you think, it's actually really exciting when you can get in that mindset to realize what's really happening. It's just the light bulb goes off. I don't know how to explain it. I think you
Yeah.
definitely nailed that.
Yeah.
And
And that's what we love. We love when people come into meditation, and our goal is to ignite their fire within them, reignite their light, and for them to be in their own power. They don't need to come to me for advice. It's like you meditate. And one of the questions we teach, we say, ask what's in the highest good? What's in my highest good, the highest good, my family's highest good? Meditate on that answer. If nothing comes through, that's an answer. If you hear something, that's an answer. But it's a better question.
beautiful. Yeah. And I love, I've seen people when, with yoga and meditation, just seeing people walk out, that that look in their face just is invaluable because I mean, I working out, I was always big into working out. And yes, is it a thing that I like to do? Yes. But what I've learned is I would much more rather take the time to meditate in the morning so that my mind is set to get the rest in order. Does that make sense? You get
That's
what
what
I'm saying.
people to meditate is if they can even give it 5 minutes, just
Yeah.
in the morning.
Yeah.
Not just enough. And if they get intrusive thoughts, just say to yourself, what thoughts do I need to think right now? Your mind blanks, or it says, no.
Yeah.
And the thoughts come back in, say it again.
Yeah. And the thing that I think is I could talk to you all day about this stuff. I love this stuff.
Me
But
too.
how can I say it? I was just at the tip. One thing that I love is I see so many men getting into meditation now as well.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
those big burly dudes and stuff. I remember that it just reminds me of my brother back east. I remember meeting one of his friends. They were watching some big WWF fight or whatever. And of course, I'm like, I just it's not right. What's up with their ears? But he literally is one of the strongest men in the world. Like his arms are like this big, nicest guy, a mechanic. And I'm always talking about the rescue dogs and our dogs. And he pulls up his phone. He's like, yeah, I do the mechanic and I bring my dog into work. And it just goes to show never judge a book by its cover. He had this little chihuahua all dressed up. Like it was just, and he was a manly man, but I just admire men that they embrace that, and
Yeah. I
and
mean, we're
some of them have overbearing wives. So sometimes I'm not being mean. I'm just saying that sometimes they need to find an outlet and like everyone does. And I see the spiritual community just on fire right now. And I feel
indeed.
like so, and this is your interview, and I'm sorry, but I just get so, but what I love is that people are really starting to earn a good living at this
Yeah.
because people are really catching on, and it's just so beautiful, you know?
It is, and it's such a co-creative experience. I think the best way that it was explained to me is we're all fingers in the spiritual industry of the same hand. We're not competing against each other. We're trying to funnel people to the same place. And
Yeah.
that's to know that there's something larger than us so they can reach peace, they can reach joy, bliss, whatever it is they're looking for. But we all steer them there together, whether it's Reiki, it's
Yeah.
meditation. They
And that
prefer,
stuff is very real, people. Don't
yeah,
let anyone fool you because then it's very real. It's very, very real. So can I ask you, when you end up having Mormons, at people that have left the church, can you share some of their experiences that, their aha moment? Like, I never thought this, like, just a little
yeah.
bit about some
Um,
stories.
it is it is so hard to see some of them come in because one in particular, his he got a divorce, stepped away from the church, and where his struggle was is he hadn't told his parents that he stepped away from the church yet, and that's what he was grappling with. And I just simply put to him, be true to you, explain it
Mhm.
to them, give them a shot. Maybe they're going to prove you wrong or prove you right. You don't know, but living with this crushing pain that I see in your body, I see in your face, is doing you a disservice. It's like, just cross that bridge. You don't know what it's going to bring to you, but just do it
Mhm.
and give them grace. If it's they need distance, give it to them. If they want more connection,
Mhm.
but I applaud you in your bravery. And that's what I try to explain with any of them that are grappling at that point. I said, you're so brave. You're brave to potentially lose friends, family, community. It must feel very lonely. And at that point, that's when I invite him. I'm like, get on places like Meetup, find groups that you can go to, find books that you like now, go meditate, go hike, keep
Yeah.
searching, because you're going to be trying to find yourself again. You essentially lose yourself in this, and you're going to go on a journey to find who you are now. But look back in 5 years, you won't regret your decision because you're
I,
stronger.
I so agree with you on that. One thing that I've heard, and it happened myself, I ended up getting a prophylactic double mastectomy for preventative breast cancer. And what I found is it did completely up. I mean, I was still in my late 30s. It put me in full-blown menopause. And they don't want to tell people about that. And if I had known what I know now, I would never have done the TV spot about that. But my point is I was in such pain. Like this, there's emotional pain and there's physical pain. Like there are people that get massive headaches, massive stomach aches. I'm going to be honest. I mean, and this could be embarrassing, but I'm just being raw and real. I couldn't go to the bathroom for 2 weeks. It was the most painful thing. I couldn't eat. I was withering away, not on purpose. It was just my whole body was falling apart. And I kid you not, as soon as I incorporated meditation, things got better. And I was like that for years.
Yeah, yeah.
And so my I guess what I'm trying to share is for people to be open that all these ailments that might be in their body, and there's a ton of them all we it helps a ton. It
It
helped
does.
me. I honestly I couldn't believe it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I just had to work on breath work and focus and just block everything and everyone out and just listen.
And Joe Dispenza has some amazing books on that. He talks about people with massive ailments and how they shift their energy in meditating. I really enjoy his. And even with
He's
Dolores
got good
Cannon,
stuff.
on her rabbit hole for the same reason. A lot of people get the past life regressions not for the past lives, but to get in deep enough that they can hear their own advice to help with their healing, to figure out where the pain stems from. It is in this lifetime, is it in past lifetimes, is it linked together? And it is fascinating. And
It
sometimes
really is when you think about it. I mean, it's like finding yourself and that I am that you always were, you just didn't know it. And where does it come from? And it's like all those questions that little kids ask. It's like you start being a little, that's what people mean by being that little kid again. You're like, oh my gosh, this is just so exciting. I never knew. And it just keeps going and going, and it almost becomes addictive. But then there's a point where you're like, okay, especially with signs and synchronicities. I mean, I think that when people start awakening, I remember when I did, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this and that. I mean, I literally see things and people have no clue that I see them. And I think there's a
right,
lot of us out there. And
right.
you're sane, you're grounded. I mean, I've had my eyes checked. One of my best friends owned an eyeglass place. I can't go to him because I can't say that. I just want to know my eye. Sure enough, my eyes were super healthy. They're like, you got great eyes. I'm like, all right, good.
Yeah.
It's
Here, some people see, some people just have a knowingness. A lot of us have gifts that we don't even know we've had. And I
I
think
know.
because
I
it's someone that can do it, not you, someone else.
that does I mean, when you really think about it, does that even make sense to
No,
it doesn't. And I
no.
think that's part of the great awakening when people are starting to awaken, like everything's a lie. Everything's a lie, It's just
Everyone has gifts. They're all different, but everyone has them. It's not exclusive to a certain sect of people that are closer to a higher power. It's for everyone.
I agree. And I feel also that people that start opening up in attending meditation and things like that, I think when they start opening up, from what I've seen, it's just like they realize, like, wow, I feel like I'm like my own superhero because they just made it through, and now they understand all those sayings they've always heard their whole life but never felt them until you get in that spot. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And it's amazing to watch how their lives expand. Like even the way I got into meditation was hilarious.
Tell us.
After my mom passed away, 7 years after, my life was a wreck. It was a really big mess. And I went in and I ended up finding a tape that my mom recorded in the early 90s with her
Like
meditation.
the old little recorder you see in all the psychic shows and stuff,
Yeah,
like that.
physical tape. So,
Wow.
and I found a tape. I was able to buy a recorder to listen to it. And I forgot, before she would channel, she would actually play this, she would do a meditation. So I listened to that meditation over and over and over on all my bad days, my good days. My life started changing, and everybody else was noticing, like, what are you doing? I said, well, you're going to laugh. I'm listening to this tape and come on in. So I would clear out, I had a salon at that point in time. I would clean out my salon, invite people over. We would listen to the tape. Well, one day I forgot the tape. And I'm like,
Oh,
I think I remember it. And then I guided the meditation. And that's been, I think, about 12 years now that I've been guiding meditations. But what I teach a lot of people is your path finds you. Don't force it. If doors keep closing,
yes.
it's flow. And all of the things will
Great.
find you. You're meant to be with, the friends that you make, the connections. You don't need to seek it. It's always been there. You set the goals up before you came here. Just let go, step into it, take some big breaths. You
You're
don't
an
like,
archangel. I feel that.
yeah. And it's like, and people don't realize meditation comes in many forms. It could be
Yeah.
walking, breathing, it's yoga. I mean, if you can just stay in the present and clear your mind out, it can be anything that you're doing that puts you
Golfing,
absolutely,
weightlifting, I
absolutely,
mean, it's just keeping your mind occupied on not the outside chatter. Yeah.
absolutely. So it doesn't have to be sitting down and saying Om and holding the Chi Mudra.
Yeah. I agree. And I think that's part of what I was trying to get to. I think a lot of people don't understand all of that part, the ohms, and they look at it from their entertainment like it's really kind of weird or whatever. But I want to remind people, but how happy do they look? And
Right.
they think that's fake. It's very, very real. I mean, wouldn't you want some of that? Right? I mean, so can I ask you, do you feel the tensions shifting like even higher now for people in general out there?
I think so, but what I've learned, and this was, I've just learned how to stay in my own bubble and in my own group. And I just worry about people in that. And I don't look beyond it unless it lands in my path. Like I used to watch the news, I used to get concerned with everything that was going on in the world, and it overwhelmed me to the point of what am I going to realistically be able to do about it?
Yeah, I agree.
What would be my best effort? What would be the best that I could provide to the world? And it's listening to what's right for me. So for me, it's teaching meditation, doing past life regressions, selling houses, and eventually putting meditation on social media. And it's that
You need to
simple.
do it, girlfriend. You need to
Yeah,
do it.
you do your ripple, and I do my ripple. It changes things and it creates a better ripple, but we do it by our example. So as I change and grow, that ripple shows other people how to do it. And so I think it catches on like wildfire. So I do think the world's changing in a lot of ways where kids are more emotional. They can say, I'm sorry. They can speak their truth. They walk away from jobs and not work there for a lifetime and harm their bodies.
Yeah.
Does it have a downfall to it? Maybe a little bit, but I appreciate the better things that are coming out of it. It's like that emotional, they're not emotionally stunted like
Yeah.
we were. So it's,
Yes.
well, I'm appreciating the changes.
That's awesome. So can I ask, are you going to be doing any future meditations specifically geared to people that have left the Mormon Church
I
as more
haven't thought
like a
about it, but I'm not opposed to it. Right now, I mostly do chakra balancing, so the energy wheels in the body. And
that's
then we
very
do,
real, by the way, people. You got to cut the cord and think that's they talk about this scientifically in every esoteric religion. It's very real. It just got taken out. So let's listen
yeah,
to Miss Tiff.
very much. Very much so. And we also do enliven chants, which they're in Sanskrit, and you can feel like the buzzing from your chest. But I'm never opposed. I never close any doors. It's like I also wouldn't mind teaching meditations for the Latter-day Saints that are still going to church, because guess what? The people that are within the religions are still going to need those bright lights. I think there's people that are meant to be there to help others around them. So if it feels right and it resonates with you, stay there. If it doesn't feel right, walk away. But I
Yeah.
never put people in either direction. If it suits you, it's probably your path. I love you either way, but
Yeah.
it's
And that's the
not.
way it should be,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I'm really tired of seeing people judge other people
Yeah.
and friend them because of their political, you have memories with people that you're just ready to throw them away because you haven't realized we've all been brainwashed to act that way. It's like for every action, there's a reaction. And it seems like there's been a lot of the separation stuff, but I do feel like the time is here. People are starting to come together and they're letting go of the people that don't accept them that the way they are and being different or whatever it is.
Man, I've learned with people that don't accept me to stay curious. I ask them questions. There's a lot of times where you can have such a beautiful open dialogue and you find that you only disagree on maybe 10%, 5%. It's a very small.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes, Tiffany. That is so refreshing. That's a great way of putting it. I love that you said that.
Yeah, I'm always extending that olive branch and leaving it open, because if I'm not open, how do I expect them to be?
Yeah.
We may not change each other's minds, and you can absolutely agree to disagree, but you can
Yes.
agree on so many things. I have so many friends that are still religious, that believe different than I do politically, that do things that I don't like, but I like people as a whole. Are
Yeah.
they kind? Are they good? Do they mean well? And
Yeah. Or are they the type that are picking on everyone like, oh, did you see
yeah,
her? And da, 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 da. Like, I think people are going to start recognizing those patterns of, I hate to say the word, but a brainwashing tool through the media ever since that we've been brought up that I don't think any kid really intends to be mean because they just want to fit in, but they've been taught.
I
That makes sense.
And I
There,
think we see it, it's up to us to be able to speak to it. to say, I don't agree with that, or say something kind about that person, or,
Um,
I'm not going to be around someone that speaks negatively about others. It's up to us to change it instead of going along with it or agreeing with it. But we don't have to be so adversarial. It's like
yeah,
you can, again, stay curious. Well, why are you saying that? Why do you feel that way? Why is that important?
yeah,
And you just keep digging in that why. And then it makes them question it too to get deeper into it. But you're still coming at them with arms wide open. You're
mm,
not being judgmental. You're just curious. And that's
yeah,
how we change a society. That's how we change other people's. Just stay curious, stay
yeah.
open.
I love that you said that because I remember when I first started to learn to ask questions. I'm not gonna lie, it did feel uncomfortable because you're so used to being told again, and everywhere you go, school, work, whatever, it's this is just the way it is. This is our training. This is,
Right.
it's this that's the way it is. And I think when people start asking the whys, it's no different than when you see it in the movies as well, because the movies are, whether people want to believe it or not, mark my words on this, all our entertainment is going to be used to explain this great awakening. And
Right.
what I'm trying to get to is it is kind of an uncomfortable, like just always asking, because you're just not used to asking those questions. So then you get all these things in your head and you're like, oh my gosh, I never thought. And it makes you feel better. Like you just discovered a whole new part about yourself that you never knew that existed, and that you want to get to know yourself better, your higher self, so to speak, that some people can't grasp. But I think they'll get there when they end up connecting with people such as yourself. And
Yeah.
I want to encourage you. I can send a lot of people your way for the Mormon, that leaving the church and meditation. So
Yeah. I'll have to ponder on that and let something flow in that would be very kind and very suitable. And like I said, I don't mind because I want to see people find themselves again. I want to see their bright light shine and them living their best lives. And it doesn't mean perfect life. It doesn't mean easy life, but
yeah,
just not being stuck and brightening their lights back up so that they can do it for other people too. But I'm never,
yeah. I love that. And you know what? That just gave me a visual where nowadays you just see people constantly on their phones and stuff and just not paying attention and just grumpy and just very like edgy and so forth. Where if they just put their phone down and they just look around to see, like, it's snowing out now, like, isn't that, things like that, that they're not even recognizing because they're in that mode. I think that when they get into that mode, like, do I really need to rely on my phone, or can I just use it to make my phone calls? And I think that we're going to get to a place of people picking up the phone again, like we used to. I think people are starting to recognize it's kind of impersonal to text. Convenient, yes, but it's
I,
happening.
I agree.
I love it. Are there any last words of encouragement for people that are leaving the church once and for all? Like,
I would say,
if they're
you know,
debating, things like
yeah,
that.
well, even if you're debating, it's again, we talked about meditation. It's like, so in religion, it's contemplation. It's like maybe you contemplate. And even if you don't leave yet or you leave later, really you'll eventually get to the path you're meant to be on. So maybe there's still people you're supposed to impact or do or change. It's like, don't let it overwhelm you. Take it one step at a time. It's just little 1% changes. Maybe you remain in church and you speak up more. You ask more questions. And
Mhm.
you'll know in your intuition when it's time. And even when you finally do it, you're going to have to find new hobbies, new friends, new things to do. You might have to find new family, and they might not be your blood, they might be your spirit family. And that's where I would say get on Meetup, find different groups to go to, get on Facebook, find some different groups that are on there and
Yeah,
start connecting, because you don't need to be alone in it. It will just feel like that, but it's temporary.
I agree.
Don't do anything about it.
That's so beautiful you said that, because I believe that media has been so negative, but also you can flip it and utilize
Mhm.
it for good and start digging and doing research and looking into those type of groups and connections, so that Yeah, that's really great advice. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So Tiffany, I'd love to wrap it up. I think I said that a little bit ago. We could talk on and on. I love this type of conversation, but is there any place that you can direct people to your business, a website, or right on your
Probably
Facebook?
Facebook's probably easiest, and I am the only one with my name, so I'm so lucky. But
Okay, you're gonna have to spell it out and say it for everyone for the future
it's
here.
Tiffany. So Tiffany, Tiffany. Last name is Conorich, Conorich. And I'm going to warn you, my Facebook page is a mixed bag, as am I. You never know what you're going to get, but I am
That's
happy.
fun that way.
Yeah, and I'm happy to
You're open
connect.
to a lot of different things. I love that.
And people can message anytime. I am happy to connect. I may not have all the answers, but I'm happy to listen. And yeah,
That's super, super nice. And I hope that I can feel it. There are gonna be people reaching out to you in the near future and just so they can get a sense of who you are and where you've been. And I really appreciate that. Well, thank you so much, Miss Tiffany. If you
yeah,
and let's wrap it up. If you know of anyone that wants to share their story, whether it's leaving the church, their great awakening story, because my call is to share with people. The more that we interview other people with their experiences, the more that the people out there that scroll by are going to start noticing that there's something going on. And instead of watching the boob tube after work and a long
right.
day, maybe engage in more, asking questions, more research, connecting more with people like that. And it's contagious because FOMO is real, as we know. And, you know,
True.
right? So thank you, everyone. I am so grateful you're here. And please feel free to comment below if you'd love to share your story. We are in an open space. You will never be judged. And thank you so much, people. And you have a great night. Bye.
See you later.
Bye, Miss Tiffany.